Peace. This is Brother Harold from HawkTheHarold.com. Back at you with another video. Please like, share, and subscribe.
And finally, in Africa, a Chinese supermarket has been accused of racism against locals in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Nigerians were outraged after they were denied entry inside the store for not being of Chinese descent. The West African nation's consumer watchdog has now shut down the Chinese.
Can you imagine being racist in somebody else's country that is not your own, not of your origin? Imagine Chinese people being racist in Africa, in Nigeria, to Nigerians. That is insane.
Market and summon its owner. Our next report goes into detail.
Not a day goes by when China and its behavior don't make the news.
Do you think China would allow this to happen in China? In Africa, do they even have any African restaurants or supermarkets in China? And if they did, would China permit or allow that if some Africans or some Nigerians or just blacks in general had a black-owned store or African-owned store and forbidden Chinese citizens to come into the store in their own country? Or would the Chinese police put an end to it immediately? Probably arrest every African or black owner in the store.
This time, Chinese actions have sparked outrage almost 10,000 kilometers away. Residents in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, are enraged with the way they've been treated. A Chinese supermarket in Nigeria is at the center of controversy. The shop is located in a building run by the Chinese Chamber of Commerce in the Nigerian capital. The Chinese supermarket has been accused of racism by denying entry to African shoppers. After videos of the supermarket's blatant racism against local Nigerians went viral, the West African nation's consumer protection watchdog closed down the Chinese store. Officials of Nigeria's Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission locked down the Chinese supermarket until further notice. They also summoned
The audacity of these Chinese to disallow Nigerians in Nigeria from coming into the store. It's not like they're in China or in America somewhere. They're in an African country. They're in Nigeria. That is the audacity. How the hell are you gonna be inside of a black country and not allow blacks to come into your grocery store? What the hell are you doing in Nigeria in the first place? How you gonna open a store in a all black in an African country and you're racist? What the hell is Chinese people thinking? I can see y'all doing that here in America, but in Africa, did you Chinese people actually think that out before you open up a grocery store in Nigeria? You hate blacks, but you're gonna put a business in a black country, an African country, and exercise your blatant racism, not in China, but in Africa.
store's owner for investigation. So how did this instance of Chinese racism against Nigerians in their own country surface? It all started earlier this week. A group of Nigerians went to the Chinese Chamber of Commerce to shop from its supermarket. They were all stopped at the entrance by guards who said that people of only Chinese descent were allowed inside. And then the outcry.
The nerve of them. You only allow people of Chinese descent inside in Nigeria. I'm trying my best to keep from cussing. But that's insane. Yeah. I mean, if that was me, and I was the president of that country, I'd run the Chinese so far out that country, out my country. Every single one of them. Hell, probably do what Trump's going to do here and have a mass Chinese deportation.
Nigerian authorities have refused to reopen the Chinese supermarket. However, the racist attitude by Chinese towards Nigerians and Africans is nothing new. Reports highlight that Chinese social media is full of anti-African content. And despite calls for controlling racism on Chinese social media, Beijing has done almost nothing about it. Chinese racism came into spotlight even before the COVID-19 pandemic. Africans who were living in China became victims of Chinese racism repeatedly. Over the years, reports of Africans being treated unfairly by the Chinese have become far too frequent. It reached a point where governments had to intervene to douse the flames. And instead of facing the crisis, Beijing called the racism incidents a way to create animosity between China and Africa.
I want
What the hell are y'all doing in Africa in the first place? Why are you there? I mean,
say that if there are people who want to seize on an incident to exaggerate matters and sow discord in China's relations with African countries, that this is a doomed, futile effort. China and Africa have weathered many storms, and the cooperation has been successful and win-win. How relations are between China and Africa, and whether or not cooperation is good. African countries and the people of Africa know in their hearts exactly how things stand.
China's presence in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, remains massive. There are at least 10,000 Chinese living in Nigeria. And Beijing is credited for opening major ports and infrastructure projects in Abuja. However, China has openly engaged in arm twisting and discrimination against locals. And the most recent example is of the Chinese supermarket. As calls for boycott grow in Nigeria, it looks like Chinese racism has become a setback for Beijing's relations with Africa.
so they're there to help the infrastructure. Then why are they building businesses there? If they're there just to help build the infrastructure, then why not just do that? Why is 10,000 people from China doing in Nigeria if they're there just to help build the infrastructure? Why not just be there just for work? Go back and rewind it just a little bit.
Cooperation has been successful and win-win. How relations are between China and Africa, and whether or not cooperation is good. African countries and the people of Africa know in their hearts exactly how things stand.
China's presence in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, remains massive. There are at least 10,000 Chinese living in Nigeria. And Beijing is credited for opening major ports and infrastructure projects in Abuja. However, China has openly engaged in arm twisting and discrimination against locals. And the most recent example is of the Chinese supermarket. As calls for boycott grow in Nigeria, it looks like Chinese racism has become a setback for Beijing's relations with Africa.
From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political
When are we going to learn? I mean, we going to learn. We going to learn. I mean, this is what it takes for our people to unite across the globe. Then all of this is necessary. At some point, we're going to come together. We're going to have to. We're not going to have any choice. And I believe that everything that is going on this planet in this country and abroad is going to force us to come together. It's the one thing that we as a people haven't tried. We never tried that. We haven't done it. It's the one thing that we haven't done is united. And as long as we remain divided and disunited, then all of these isolated incidents can happen because of our disunity. Until we come together, it's going to continue to happen. But it is only our unity that can put a stop to this. But as I said, I'll leave you with that. Please like and subscribe. Peace.